I walked into my brother's engagement party. The bride whispered with a sneer, "The stinky country girl is here." She didn't know I owned the hotel, or that her family was about to learn the truth the hard way. The chandeliers in the grand ballroom of the Riverside Manor cast prismatic light across marble floors that I'd personally selected 3 years ago. Every detail of this hotel bore my fingerprints, from the imported Italian sconces to the hand-woven Persian rugs beneath the feet of 200 guests who had no idea they were celebrating in a venue I owned. My younger brother Tyler stood at the center of the room, his arm wrapped around a woman whose smile didn't quite reach her calculating eyes. Vanessa Whitmore. The bride-to-be. I'd flown in from Boston that morning specifically for this engagement party, cutting short a conference with international investors to be here for Tyler. Our parents had died in a car accident when I was 19 and Tyler was 12. I'd raised him, put myself through college while working 3 jobs, and built an empire from nothing so he'd never want for anything. He was the only family I had left. The invitation had arrived at my office 2 weeks prior, printed on expensive cardstock with gold embossing. Tyler had called me personally, his voice bright with excitement as he told me about Vanessa, about how she was different from anyone he'd ever met, about how she understood him. I'd been happy for him, genuinely happy, even though I'd never met this woman who'd captured my little brother's heart. I approached the entrance wearing a simple navy dress, my hair pulled back in a practical bun. I'd come straight from the airport, my suitcase still in the car. The party had already started, and I could hear laughter and music drifting through the ornate doors. 2 women stood near the entrance, champagne flutes in their manicured hands. One was Vanessa, her blonde hair styled in elaborate waves, wearing a dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. The other woman, slightly older with the same sharp features, had to be her sister. I was 10 feet away when Vanessa's eyes landed on me. Her nose wrinkled slightly, and she leaned toward her sister, her voice carrying just far enough for me to hear. "Oh God, the stinky country girl is here," she whispered with a sneer. "Tyler's sister. Can you believe she actually showed up looking like that?" I told him to tell her this was formal, but I guess some people don't understand what that means when you grow up in a barn. Her sister laughed, a tinkling sound that grated against my ears. "You're terrible, Vanessa." Though I don't know what Tyler was thinking, having someone like her in the family. "It's going to be so embarrassing at the wedding." "Don't worry," Vanessa said, examining her nails. "Once we're married, I'll make sure she knows her place. Maybe we'll see her at Christmas if she behaves. Tyler doesn't need that kind of influence anymore. He's going to be part of the Whitmore family now. We have standards." Something cold settled in my chest. I stood there, frozen, watching this woman mock me without knowing who I was or what I'd sacrificed for Tyler. She didn't know that the barn I'd grown up in was a modest farmhouse my parents had owned, that I'd sold it to pay for Tyler's private school tuition after they died. She didn't know that every country aspect of my upbringing had taught me work ethic and resilience that built a hospitality empire worth 8 figures. I could have walked up to them right then. Could have introduced myself, watched the color drain from Vanessa's face. But something stopped me. I wanted to see more. I needed to understand exactly who my brother was marrying. I turned and walked toward the back hallway, the route I knew led to the service corridors. My head of hotel operations, Marcus Trent, was reviewing clipboards near the kitchen entrance. "Ms. Hayes," he said, surprise evident in his voice. "I didn't know you were attending this event." "Neither does anyone else," I replied quietly. "I need you to do something for me, Marcus. I need eyes and ears on this party. Specifically on the bride and her family. Can you have staff report back to me anything interesting they hear?" Marcus had worked with me for 5 years. He knew better than to ask questions when I had that tone in my voice. "Of course. I'll be discreet." I found an empty office on the 2nd floor with a window overlooking the ballroom. From there, I could see everything while remaining invisible. Tyler looked happy, laughing with Vanessa's father, a portly man with an expensive watch and an air of self-importance. Vanessa worked the room like a politician, her smile bright and perfect, touching arms and kissing cheeks. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus, bride's mother just told someone that Tyler is a bit simple but he'll do what he's told. Also mentioned something about his inheritance. I stared at that message for a long moment. Tyler didn't have an inheritance. Everything our parents left had gone to keeping him in school and fed. Unless Vanessa thought I was going to give Tyler money. Or maybe she'd fabricated something entirely. Another text came through, this time from Sarah Chen, one of my senior staff members who was working the event, overheard the bride telling someone that her future sister-in-law won't be a problem much longer. She's planning to convince Tyler to move to Connecticut where her family lives. Says distance will solve the sister issue. I felt my jaw clench. I'd spent 7 years raising Tyler, sacrificing my 20s to make sure he had opportunities I never did. I'd attended every school play, every soccer game, every parent-teacher conference. I'd been there when he got his heart broken for the first time, when he graduated high school, when he got accepted to college. I'd been his parent, his sister, his only family. And this woman wanted to erase me like I was an inconvenient footnote. I made my way back downstairs, entering through a side door. Tyler spotted me immediately, his face lighting up with genuine joy. He excused himself from his conversation and rushed over, pulling me into a tight hug. "You made it," he said. I was starting to worry. "Come on, I want you to meet Vanessa." He led me across the ballroom, his hand on my elbow, completely oblivious to the storm brewing beneath my calm exterior. Vanessa's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second when she saw me approaching with Tyler, but she recovered quickly. "Vanessa, this is my sister," Tyler said, his voice full of pride. "The person I've been telling you about." Vanessa's eyes widened almost imperceptibly. Up close, I could see the calculations running behind her gaze, the reassessment happening in real time. Her smile never wavered. "Oh," she said, extending her hand. The same hand that had been gesturing dismissively at me 20 minutes ago. "It's so wonderful to finally meet you. Tyler talks about you constantly." I shook her hand, keeping my expression neutral. "Does he? That's sweet. This is a lovely venue you've chosen for the party." "Thank you," Vanessa said. "My father knows the owner. He pulled some strings to get us the space on such short notice." I nearly laughed. Gerald Whitmore didn't know me from Eve. He'd never pulled any strings. His assistant had called my booking manager, and they'd reserved the space at full price like any other client. "Your father must have excellent connections," I said pleasantly. Tyler beamed, completely missing the undercurrents in the conversation. "Isn't this place incredible? I've never been anywhere this fancy. Vanessa's family really knows how to throw a party." "Yes," I agreed. "They certainly spend well." Vanessa's mother materialized beside us, her eyes sharp as they assessed me. "You must be Tyler's sister." "I'm Patricia Whitmore. Vanessa's mentioned you." "Has she?" I kept my tone light. "All good things, I hope." "Of course," Patricia said, though her smile suggested otherwise. "Tyler tells us you work in hospitality." "How? Nice." "We were just saying how important it is for Tyler to have career opportunities with a Whitmore family business. Real estate development. Much more stable than the service industry." The dismissal in her voice was clear. In her world, I was waitstaff, someone who served people like her. Tyler shifted uncomfortably beside me, finally picking up on the tension. "Actually, my sister is really successful," he said. "She owns a small business." "Yes," I interrupted smoothly. "Nothing as impressive as real estate development, I'm sure." I caught the relief in Vanessa's eyes. She thought I was backing down, accepting my place in their hierarchy. She had no idea I was simply choosing my moment. The evening progressed with painful predictability. Vanessa's friends clustered around her, their laughter sharp-edged and exclusive. Several times I caught snippets of conversation, veiled references to Tyler's background and how generous the Whitmores were being by welcoming him into their family. Gerald Whitmore gave a speech about how happy he was that his daughter had found someone genuine and unspoiled by pretension, which everyone seemed to interpret as a compliment but felt more like a pat on the head for a simple-minded pet. Tyler, bless him, seemed genuinely happy. He introduced me to his friends from college, to his co-workers, to Vanessa's extended family. Each introduction came with a small story about how I'd helped him, how I'd been there for him. His love and gratitude were real and unguarded. Which made what I was learning even harder to accept. Marcus sent me another update. Bride's sister just mentioned that once they're married, they're planning to have Tyler sign some paperwork. Couldn't hear details, but she said something about protecting family assets. I excused myself to the restroom, which gave me an opportunity to slip into the hotel's business center. A few phone calls to my attorney, a woman named Sharon Vance who'd handled my acquisitions for years, confirmed my suspicions. She'd done some digging into the Whitmore family at my request. "The real estate business is leveraged to the hilt," Patricia told me. "Gerald Whitmore made some bad investments in 2019 and never recovered. They're maintaining appearances, but the company is essentially insolvent. There are 3 lawsuits pending from contractors they haven't paid." "And Tyler?" "If I had to guess, they see him as a lifeline. He works for Tech Corp in their finance division. Good salary, excellent benefits, and he's just been named in the company newsletter as someone being groomed for upper management. Your brother has a bright future, which means he has earning potential. For a family like the Whitmores, that's as good as an inheritance." I thanked Patricia and ended the call. The pieces were falling into place. Vanessa wasn't in love with Tyler. She was in love with financial stability and the appearance of the perfect life her family could no longer afford to maintain on their own. Before returning to the ballroom, I took a moment to steady myself. The business center was quiet, insulated from the party's noise by thick walls and soundproofing I'd specifically requested during renovations. I'd sat in this exact chair 2 years ago, reviewing architectural plans and arguing with contractors about whether we really needed imported marble in the lobby. We did, I'd insisted, because details mattered. Excellence was in the details. My phone buzzed with another update from Marcus. The bride's father is getting drunk. Started complaining loudly about property taxes and how the government is bleeding small businesses dry. Someone asked about his current projects and he changed the subject fast. I typed back a quick response, then pulled up a background check Sharon had sent me earlier. It made for grim reading. The Whitmore family had been wealthy once, genuinely wealthy. Gerald's father had built a successful commercial development company in the 70s and 80s. But Gerald himself lacked his father's business acumen. He'd inherited a thriving company and systematically run it into the ground through poor choices and excessive personal spending. The family still lived in a mansion in Greenwich, but the mortgage was underwater. They drove luxury cars that were leased, not owned. Vanessa's designer wardrobe came from consignment shops and borrowed pieces from friends in better financial situations. The whole family was a carefully constructed facade, all appearance and no substance. And they'd identified Tyler as their salvation. I thought about my brother, sweet and earnest Tyler, who still believed the best in people. He'd grown up watching me work myself to exhaustion, had seen firsthand what real struggle looked like. But he'd never had to experience it himself because I'd made sure of that. I'd wanted him to have optimism, to believe in goodness, to trust that hard work and honesty would be rewarded. Now that very innocence made him vulnerable to people like the Whitmores. I pulled up the guest list for tonight's party, cross-referencing names with my mental database of Tyler's friends and associates. Most of the guests were Whitmore connections. Out of 200 people, maybe 20 were actually there for Tyler. The rest were Vanessa's society friends, Gerald's business contacts, Patricia's book club and charity committee members. This wasn't Tyler's engagement party. It was a Whitmore family production, with my brother as a prop. My hands clenched around my phone. I'd worked too hard, sacrificed too much, to watch Tyler get used like this. The question was how to handle it without destroying him in the process. He loved Vanessa, or at least he thought he did. Breaking through that would require more than just my word against hers. Another text arrived, this one from Sarah Chen, overheard Vanessa talking to her sister. She's already planning the wedding for next spring at some estate in the Hamptons. Said her father knows the owner and can get a discount. Want me to check if that's true? I smiled grimly. Please do. The response came back within minutes. Sarah was thorough, one of the reasons I promoted her to senior management. The estate belongs to the Morrison family. Call them pretending to be a potential client. They have no relationship with Gerald Whitmore and don't offer discounts. Full rate is $150,000 for a weekend wedding. So Vanessa was already lying to Tyler about wedding costs, probably planning to pressure him into paying while making it seem like her family was contributing. Classic manipulation, the kind that happened slowly enough that the victim didn't notice until they were completely entangled. I stood and walked to the window overlooking the garden. Below, some guests had wandered outside, champagne glasses in hand, admiring the fountain I'd imported from France. I'd bought this hotel when it was failing, when everyone said the location was wrong and the building too old-fashioned to save. I'd proven them wrong through vision and relentless work. The Whitmores were the opposite. They'd inherited success and squandered it, then went looking for someone else to fund their lifestyle. They'd probably done this before, I realized. Vanessa was 28, attractive, well-connected in certain circles. This couldn't be her first attempt at landing a financially stable husband. I made another call, this time to a private investigator I'd used for business background checks. I need everything you can find on Vanessa Whitmore. Previous relationships, employment history, social connections. I need it fast. How fast? Tonight if possible. Money's no object. Give me 2 hours. I returned to the party through a different entrance, one that led past the kitchen. The catering staff moved with practiced efficiency, preparing another round of appetizers. The head chef, a temperamental genius named Antoine, caught my eye and nodded respectfully. He knew who I was, knew that I'd given him creative freedom most hotels wouldn't allow. In the ballroom, the party had shifted into a different phase. The speeches were over, the formality relaxed. People clustered in groups, networking and gossiping. I spotted Tyler's boss from Tech Corp, a sharp-eyed woman named Margaret Reynolds who I'd met briefly at one of Tyler's company events. I made my way over to her. Ms. Reynolds, I don't know if you remember me. I'm Tyler's sister. Of course I remember. You were asking very intelligent questions about our company culture. She studied me with interest. Tyler speaks highly of you. He's a good brother. Can I ask you something professional? How's he doing at work? Margaret's expression warmed. He's exceptional. One of our best analysts. We're grooming him for a senior management position, actually. The board specifically requested he be included in our leadership development program. That's wonderful. He hasn't mentioned it. We only finalized it last week. He should be getting the official offer Monday. Margaret glanced across the room at Vanessa. Between you and me, I'm hoping the engagement doesn't interfere with his career plans. His fiancée seemed very focused on him staying local when I mentioned our Boston headquarters. You talked to Vanessa about it? Briefly. She was quite insistent that Tyler wouldn't be interested in relocating. Said his family obligations kept him here. Margaret paused. But Tyler told me he had no family in Connecticut. That you were in Boston and were his only living relative. The lie was so casual, so calculated. Vanessa had been building walls between Tyler and his opportunities before they were even married. That's correct, I said carefully. I am his only family, and I live in Boston. Margaret's eyes sharpened. Interesting. Well, I hope Tyler makes the choice that's best for his career. He has tremendous potential. We talked for a few more minutes before I excused myself. My phone buzzed with a message from the private investigator. He'd found something already. I stepped into a quiet alcove to read his preliminary report. Vanessa had been engaged twice before. Once at 23 to a banker who'd broken it off after his family raised concerns about her spending habits. Again at 26 to a venture capitalist who'd ended things when he discovered she'd been lying about her own family's financial situation, claiming trust funds that didn't exist. Both times, she'd moved on quickly to the next prospect. Both times, the breakups had been kept quiet, handled through social circles rather than public drama. Tyler was target number 3. I felt cold rage settle in my chest. This wasn't just opportunistic dating. This was predatory. Vanessa had a pattern, a system. Find someone successful but naive, someone without family to warn them, someone trusting enough to believe her stories. Tyler fit perfectly. The investigator's report continued with details about the Whitmore family's financial situation. It was worse than Patricia had indicated. Gerald had taken out personal loans against the business, borrowed from friends who were now asking for repayment, even mortgaged his elderly mother's home without telling her. The family was months away from complete financial collapse. They were desperate. Desperate people did desperate things. I needed to move carefully. If I came at this too hard, too fast, Tyler would feel attacked and defensive. He'd see it as his controlling sister trying to run his life. But if I waited too long, he might sign documents or make commitments that would be legally binding. The timing had to be perfect. I returned to the party to find Vanessa holding court near the dessert table. Her friends surrounded her, admiring her engagement ring. Tyler is just so sweet, she was saying. A little naive, but that's part of his charm. He doesn't understand how the world really works, you know? He actually thinks love is enough. She laughed, and her friends joined in. It's almost adorable. What about his sister? One of the friends asked. Is she going to be a problem? Vanessa waved a dismissive hand. Please. She's nobody. Tyler feels obligated to her because she helped raise him, but once we're married, I'll handle it. We'll move to Connecticut. He'll get busy with his new position at my father's company, and she'll fade into the background where she belongs. Tyler just needs someone to guide him away from that kind of negative influence. I felt something crack inside my chest. Not anger, exactly. Something colder and more clarifying. This woman was planning to isolate my brother, control him, use him to prop up her failing family's lifestyle, and erase me from his life like I'd never existed. A hotel staff member approached me discreetly. Ms. Hayes, there's a situation with the Whitmore account you should know about. I followed her to the front desk, where the night manager looked uncomfortable. The credit card Mr. Whitmore put down for the event has been declined, she said quietly. We've tried running it 3 times. The party package was supposed to be paid in full tonight. How much is outstanding? $42,000, including the deposit they never actually paid. I smiled. Put it on my personal account. And I want you to prepare an itemized bill to be delivered to Mr. Whitmore's table in exactly 1 hour. Are you sure? Completely. Make sure it's very clear that the payment has been covered by the hotel's owner. Include a personal note for me. I returned to the ballroom, where Gerald Whitmore was regaling a group of guests with a story about his supposed friendship with the hotel's owner. I stood at the edge of the crowd, listening to him fabricate details about lunches we'd never had and golf games we'd never played. Tyler found me there, his tie slightly loosened, his face flushed with champagne and happiness. Having fun? He asked. It's been illuminating, I said honestly. Tyler, can I ask you something? Anything. Are you happy? Really happy? His smile faltered slightly. Of course. Vanessa is amazing. Her family has been so welcoming. Have they asked you to sign anything? Prenuptial agreements, business documents, anything like that? Tyler's expression shifted, became guarded. Vanessa's dad mentioned something about partnership agreements. For when I joined the family business. Why? Just curious. Tyler, you know you don't have to join anyone's business, right? You have a great job at Tech Corp. I know, but this is a real opportunity. Vanessa says it's what married couples do. They build things together. And what about us? You and me? He looked uncomfortable. You'll always be my sister. But Vanessa thinks. She says it might be good for me to be more independent. That I rely on you too much. There it was. The poison, already taking root. I see, I said quietly. And you agree with that? I don't know. Maybe? You've done so much for me, and I'm grateful, but Vanessa says a man needs to stand on his own 2 feet. Tyler, I raised you to stand on your own feet. Everything I did was to give you the tools to be independent and successful. But being independent doesn't mean cutting out people who love you. I know, He stopped as Vanessa appeared at his elbow. There you are, she said, looping her arm through his. People are asking for us. We should do another round. She glanced at me, her smile polite but cool. You don't mind if I steal him away, do you? Not at all, I said. We were just catching up. They walked away together, and I watched Tyler laugh at something Vanessa whispered in his ear. My little brother, who I'd read bedtime stories to when he had nightmares about our parents. Who I taught to ride a bike, to tie a tie, to believe in himself. Who was now being systematically turned against me by a woman who saw him as a financial instrument. I moved through the crowd, observing. Really observing. The party was a masterclass in social manipulation. Vanessa positioned Tyler strategically, introducing him to people who could be useful to her family's business, steering him away from anyone who might ask uncomfortable questions. She touched his arm possessively, laughed at his jokes a bit too loudly, performed the role of adoring fiancé with practiced precision. But her eyes were always calculating, always assessing. I found myself near a group of older women who I recognized from the program as Patricia's friends. They were discussing the engagement with a kind of frank assessment that came with age and experience. I give it 3 years, one of them said, a woman in an emerald dress. She's just like her mother. Patricia married Gerald for his father's money, and when that dried up, she started looking for other solutions. Poor boy doesn't know what he's getting into, another agreed. He seems sweet, though. Not like Vanessa's usual type. That's exactly why Patricia approved, the first woman said. The last two were too smart, figured out the game too quickly. This one won't ask questions. I wanted to interrupt, to defend Tyler, but I held back. This was valuable intelligence, confirmation that even Vanessa's own social circle saw through the facade. Instead, I circled back to where Marcus was coordinating staff near the bar. He pulled me aside discreetly. You need to see this, he said, handing me his tablet. On screen was security footage from the hallway outside one of the preparation suites from earlier in the day. Vanessa and her sister stood in the corridor, their voices picked up by the security system's audio. Are you sure about this? The sister asked. He's nice, but he's not really our kind of people. That's the point, Lindsay, Vanessa replied. Our kind of people see through the situation. Tyler doesn't. He actually believes I love him, which makes everything so much easier. Plus, his sister will probably give him money as a wedding gift, maybe even help with a house down payment. She feels guilty about their parents dying, did everything for him growing up. That guilt is exploitable. My stomach turned. She'd researched our history, identified my vulnerabilities, planned how to use my love for Tyler against both of us. What about after? Lindsay asked. When he figures it out. He won't. Men like Tyler don't. They want to believe in true love and happy endings. I'll give him that fantasy, keep him just satisfied enough that he doesn't question things. Besides, once we have kids, he'll be locked in. Divorce with children means child support, and I'll make sure I'm positioned well in any settlement. Vanessa, that's kind of cold. It's practical. Dad's business is failing. Mom's spending hasn't stopped. Someone has to fix this, and since our dear brother ran off to Europe to find himself with what was left of his trust fund, that someone is me. Tyler's not a bad guy. I could do worse. At least he's not ugly and he has decent career prospects. Plus, Tyler mentioned his sister raised him after their parents died in some accident. He feels guilty that she had to sacrifice so much. That kind of guilt is useful. Lindsay laughed. You really have thought of everything. I always do, Vanessa replied. The video ended. Marcus looked at me with concern. I thought you should know the extent of it. Thank you. Keep this footage secure. I may need it. I walked through the hotel's service corridors, needing a moment away from the performance happening in the ballroom. These hallways were familiar territory, places I'd walked countless times during renovations and staff training. I'd chosen every light fixture, approved every carpet pattern, insisted on proper ventilation and ergonomic design for my employees. This hotel was mine in a way the Whitmores could never understand. Not because I owned it legally, but because I built it with my own vision and effort. Everything they had was inherited or borrowed or stolen. Everything I had, I'd earned. My phone rang. Sharon Vance, my attorney. I found something else, she said without preamble. Gerald Whitmore has been in talks with a business broker about selling the company. But the numbers don't work. Even if he sold everything, he'd still be underwater by about $2 million. That's when the conversations with Tyler started getting serious. They need his income to stay afloat. More than that. With Tyler's credit rating and income, they could potentially refinance their debts, consolidate under better terms. If they can make him a partner in the business, they can use his financial standing to secure loans they couldn't get on their own. That's fraud. Borderline. If Tyler signs willingly, knowing what he's signing, it's legal. But based on what you've told me about their conversations, I doubt they plan to be fully transparent about the company's financial situation. I thanked her and ended the call. The pieces of the puzzle were complete now. The Whitmores weren't just looking for Vanessa to marry well. They needed Tyler specifically. They needed his clean credit, his stable income, his trusting nature. They'd identified him as the perfect mark and Vanessa had executed the plan flawlessly. almost flawlessly. They hadn't counted on me. I made my way to the hotel's security office, where my head of security, James Rodriguez, monitored the feeds. James, I need you to compile all audio and video from tonight that mentions me, Tyler, or the Whitmore family's financial situation. Clean copies, properly documented with timestamps. Legal issue? He asked, already pulling up files. Potentially. I want to be prepared. You know, James said as he worked, I've been doing this job for 20 years. You learn to read people through cameras. That bride of yours? She's performing. Every gesture, every expression. It's all calculated. You noticed that too. Hard not to. Your brother, though, he's genuine. Whatever he's feeling, it's real. Makes me worry for him. Me too. That's why I'm doing this. James handed me a flash drive. Everything's here. Good luck. I returned to the ballroom one more time before the bill would be delivered to Gerald's table. I needed to see Tyler once more, to be absolutely certain I was doing the right thing. Destroying his engagement would hurt him, possibly damage our relationship. But letting him marry Vanessa would destroy him slowly, turning him into a financial instrument for a failing family's desperation. I found him on the terrace, alone for a rare moment. He stood at the railing, looking out over the gardens, and something about his posture seemed uncertain. Hey, I said softly, joining him. You okay? He turned, and I saw doubt in his eyes. Can I ask you something? And you promise to be honest? Always. Do you like Vanessa? The question caught me off guard. I could lie, be diplomatic, avoid the confrontation. But Tyler had asked for honesty, and I'd promised him that when he was 12 years old. I'd promised I would never lie to him, even when the truth was hard. I don't know her well enough to like or dislike her, I said carefully. But I'm concerned about some things I've observed. Like what? Like the way she talks about you when you're not around. Like how quickly this relationship has moved. Like the fact that she seems more interested in your job prospects than your dreams. I paused. Tyler, do you feel loved by her? Really loved? He didn't answer right away. The silence stretched between us, filled with the distant sounds of the party and the fountain below. I don't know, he finally admitted. Sometimes I do. When it's just us, when she looks at me a certain way. But other times, it feels like I'm being managed. Like I'm a project she's working on rather than a person she loves. Trust that feeling, I said. Your instincts are good. But what if I'm wrong? What if I'm just being paranoid because this is all so new and kind of overwhelming? Then you take time to find out. There's no rush to get married, Tyler. If Vanessa really loves you, she'll understand you need to be sure. He nodded slowly. Her dad wants me to start at their company next month. He says it's a great opportunity, but I'd have to leave Tech Corp. What do you want? I don't know. Tech Corp offered me a promotion. Margaret said there's a position opening in Boston, more money, better responsibilities. But Vanessa says her family needs me here. Needs you, or needs your income? Tyler's head snapped toward me. What does that mean? It means I want you to be very careful about any financial entanglements with the Whitmore family. Make sure you understand exactly what you're signing if they ask you to sign anything. You know something, don't you? That's why you're asking all these questions. Tyler, has Vanessa's father already asked you to sign business documents or join his company? His hesitation told me everything. He's been talking about it. Wants me to give notice at Tech Corp and start with Whitmore Development. He says I'd be a partner, that it's a family business and I'm going to be family. And what does Vanessa say about your promotion opportunity at Tech Corp? The one in Boston? Tyler's face clouded. She says it's too far. That her family needs us here. That I should prioritize our future together over a job. Before I could answer, Vanessa appeared in the terrace doorway. Tyler, baby, you're toast. Everyone's waiting. She smiled at me, brittle and false. Sorry to interrupt, but duty calls. Tyler looked between us, clearly torn. Then he squeezed my hand briefly and followed Vanessa inside. I checked my watch. The hour was nearly up. The bill would be delivered to Gerald's table any moment now. The hour passed. I positioned myself where I could see Gerald Whitmore's table when the night manager approached with the bill. I watched his face go from confusion to shock to a deep, angry red as he read the itemized statement and the note I'd included. He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Several guests turned to look as he stormed toward the front desk, Patricia Whitmore hurrying after him. I gave them 5 minutes before I followed. This is absurd. Gerald was shouting when I arrived. I know the owner of this hotel personally. There's been some mistake. The night manager, bless her professionalism, remained calm. There's no mistake, sir. The bill has been settled by Ms. Hayes, the hotel's owner. She wanted to ensure you received a full accounting of the evening's expenses. Hayes? Gerald's face went purple. Tyler's last name is Hayes. Is this some kind of joke? No joke at all, I said, stepping forward. Hello, Mr. Whitmore. We haven't been formally introduced. I'm the owner of Riverside Manor. And Tyler's sister. The silence that followed was spectacular. Gerald's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Patricia clutched her pearls. The night manager looked like she was trying very hard not to smile. This is. You're. Gerald sputtered. The stinky country girl? I suggested pleasantly. Yes, I believe that's what your daughter called me earlier this evening. Although I should mention that I also own the Grandview Hotel in Boston, the Lakeside Resort in Maine, and the Metropolitan Plaza in New York. Along with 6 other properties across the Northeast. We do quite well in the hospitality industry. Patricia Whitmore had gone white. There must be some misunderstanding. Oh, I don't think so. I heard quite clearly. I also heard your daughter planning to isolate my brother, manipulate him into signing documents for your failing business, and erase me from his life. Should I continue? Now see here, Gerald blustered. You can't just. I can, actually. This is my hotel. You're my guests. And I've been very patient listening to your family insult me, dismiss me, and plot to use my brother for financial gain. The party's paid for. Consider it an engagement gift. But I think it's time we all had an honest conversation, don't you? A crowd had gathered. I could see Vanessa pushing through, Tyler behind her, both of them trying to understand what was happening. What's going on? Tyler asked, looking between me and the Whitmores. Your sister, Vanessa said, her voice tight, is apparently the owner of this hotel and is making a scene. I'm not making a scene, I corrected. I'm clarifying a misunderstanding. You see, Tyler, the Whitmores have been operating under some false assumptions. About me, about you, and about what they expect from your marriage. What are you talking about? Tyler looked genuinely confused. I pulled out my phone and played a recording. I'd asked Marcus to have certain conversations captured by the hotel's security system. It wasn't admissible in court, but it was perfectly legal in the privacy of my own property. Vanessa's voice came through clearly. Tyler is a bit simple, but he'll do what he's told. Then her mother, once they're married, will have Tyler sign the partnership papers. He won't understand what they really mean. Then Vanessa again, his sister won't be a problem much longer. Distance will take care of that. Tyler's face went through several emotions. Confusion, hurt, anger, disbelief. He looked at Vanessa, waiting for her to deny it, to explain. Tyler, baby, that's taken out of context, Vanessa started, her voice honeyed. Your sister is twisting things. Which part is out of context? I asked. The part where you called him simple? The part where your mother planned to trick him into signing documents? Or the part where you planned to erase me from his life? You had no right to record private conversations, Gerald shouted. In my own hotel? I have every right. It's clearly posted at every entrance. All areas are under surveillance for security purposes. Tyler held up a hand, his voice quiet but firm. Everyone stop. He looked at Vanessa. Is any of this true? Of course not. She's lying because she's jealous. She can't stand to see you happy with someone else. But Tyler wasn't looking at her anymore. He was looking at me. You wouldn't lie about this. No, I said simply. I wouldn't. But you also wouldn't embarrass me in front of everyone unless you thought you had to. No, I agreed again. I wouldn't. He turned to Vanessa's father. Mr. Whitmore, what are these partnership papers my mother-in-law mentioned? Gerald's bluster returned. Standard business documents. Nothing to concern yourself with. I'd like to see them. Tyler, don't be ridiculous, Vanessa said, her voice rising. You're going to trust her over me? Over my family? We're supposed to get married. And I'm supposed to be marrying someone who loves me, Tyler said. Not someone who thinks I'm simple and needs to be controlled. I never said that. I heard you say it. We all did. Tyler pulled the engagement ring from his pocket. He'd been carrying it, I realized, planning to show it off to people. Instead, he held it out to Vanessa. I think we need to take a step back. Maybe postpone things while we figure this out. Vanessa's mask finally cracked. You're really going to throw away everything we have because of her? Because of some recordings that could mean anything? You haven't denied any of it, Tyler pointed out. You haven't said you love me. You haven't said any of this is untrue. Of course I love you. No, Tyler said quietly. You love what you think I can do for you. There's a difference. He handed her the ring and walked away. I followed him out of the ballroom, leaving the Whitmores to deal with the wreckage of their party. Their guests were whispering, phones were out, and I knew by morning this would be all over their social circle. I found Tyler sitting on a bench in the hotel garden, his head in his hands. I sat beside him, not touching, just being present. I'm an idiot, he said finally. You're not. You're trusting. There's a difference. You tried to warn me. You asked me those questions. I had to be sure. I couldn't just tell you without proof. You wouldn't have believed me. He laughed bitterly. You're right. I would have thought you were jealous or controlling or something. Just like she said you'd be. Tyler, look at me. I waited until he did. I will never try to control your life. I raised you to think for yourself, to make your own choices. But I also won't stand by and watch someone hurt you, especially not someone who sees you as a means to an end. Did you really pay for the party? Every penny. $42,000 that the Whitmores couldn't actually afford. He whistled low. That's... wow. It's nothing. You're my brother. You're worth infinitely more than that. We sat in silence for a while, the sounds of the party continuing without us. Finally, Tyler spoke again. When did you buy this place? 3 years ago. It was struggling, losing money. I restructured it, brought in new management, renovated key areas. Now it's one of our most profitable properties. Our? I own 8 hotels, Tyler. I started with one small property in Maine that I bought with money I'd saved and a loan I worked 3 jobs to pay off. I built this business from nothing while making sure you had everything you needed. I never told you because I didn't want you to feel obligated or pressured. I wanted you to succeed on your own merits. Which I have. Which you absolutely have? Your position at Tech Corp is because you're brilliant and hardworking. None of my doing. He nodded slowly. The Whitmores really are broke, aren't they? Their business is. They're maintaining appearances, but yes. I think Vanessa saw you as a solution to their financial problems. Your salary, your future earning potential, maybe even hoping I'd help you financially and they could access that. I feel like such a fool. Don't. She was convincing. Manipulative people usually are. Tyler stood, brushing off his pants. I should go back in there. Break things off properly. Not run away. Want company? No. This is something I need to do myself. He paused. But after? Maybe we could get dinner? Just us? I feel like we have a lot to catch up on. I'd like that. I watched him walk back into the hotel, his shoulders squared with determination. My little brother, who'd grown into a man when I wasn't looking. Who'd just had his heart broken but was handling it with grace and maturity. The confrontation inside was brief. Tyler found Vanessa and her family, spoke to them quietly but firmly, and left the ring on the table. There would be fallout, I knew. Social media posts, gossip, possibly even attempted legal action from the Whitmores claiming I'd interfered. Let them try. I had recordings, documentation, and resources they couldn't match. But more importantly, I had my brother back. Tyler and I left the hotel together, driving to a small diner he loved that served breakfast 24 hours a day. We sat in a corner booth, ordered pancakes and coffee, and talked for hours. About his job, about my business, about our parents and the memories we shared. About his dreams and fears and the future he wanted to build. I'm thinking about staying in Boston, he said, drowning his pancakes in syrup the way he had since he was 12. Tech Corp offered me a promotion if I relocate to their headquarters. Better pay, better opportunities. And it would be closer to you. Only if it's what you want, I said. Don't make decisions based on what just happened. I'm not. I've been thinking about it for a while. Vanessa didn't want me to take it because it would mean leaving Connecticut, leaving her family's business. But it's what I want. What I've always wanted. Then you should do it. He smiled, a real smile this time. I will. And maybe you can teach me about the hotel business? I mean, I know finance and management. Maybe I could help you expand? Tyler, you don't have to. I want to. Not because I owe you, though I do. But because I'm interested. Because it's something we could build together. As equals this time, not you taking care of me. I felt tears prick my eyes. I'd like that. The fallout from the engagement party was predictable and dramatic. Vanessa's social media told a story of betrayal and jealousy, painting me as a controlling sister who couldn't let her brother grow up. The Whitmores threatened legal action for entrapment and defamation, though their attorney quickly advised them they had no case. Tyler's friends and co-workers, however, rallied around him. Once the truth came out about the Whitmores' financial situation and Vanessa's manipulations, public opinion shifted. The recordings I'd made, while not released publicly, had been shared with enough key people that the real story emerged. 3 months later, Tyler moved to Boston. He took the promotion at Tech Corp and started working with me on weekends, learning the hospitality business from the ground up. He was good at it, bringing fresh perspectives and financial acumen I hadn't considered. 6 months after that, we opened our 9th property together, a boutique hotel in Portland that Tyler had helped me acquire and renovate. At the opening night party, surrounded by staff and investors and friends, Tyler gave a speech thanking me for everything I'd done for him, for saving him from a terrible mistake, and for being the best sister anyone could ask for. I stood there, watching him shine, and felt the weight of those 7 years finally lift. I'd raised him right. He was going to be fine. Better than fine, actually. He was going to be extraordinary. As for Vanessa, I heard through the grapevine that she'd gotten engaged again 6 months later, this time to the son of a real estate developer who actually had money. I wished her well, genuinely. She taught Tyler a valuable lesson about trust and authenticity, even if she hadn't meant to. Tyler found me after his speech, pulling me into a hug. Thank you, he whispered. For everything. For raising me, for protecting me, for believing in me. Always, I said. That's what family does. And this time, I knew he understood exactly what that meant.